Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. It was very hard to see clearly. The shape continued to stand still, so I decided to move a little closer in hopes of getting a better look at the situation. The thought terrified me, but I was transfixed by this being, or perhaps I was just too intoxicated to make smart decisions. I took 2 steps forward but was suddenly distracted by a voice coming from behind me. My friend had woken up and noticed the door was wide open. He got out of bed, saw me walking around the fire, and called out. His voice made me jump in surprise, but I quickly realized who it was. I asked if he could also see the figure on the other side of the fire pit. He just laughed and told me I must still be stoned, insisting I was seeing things. We laughed it off and returned to bed. On my way back, I turned around to take one last look, but the shape was no longer there. I chuckled to myself, assuming my friend was right, and went to sleep. The next morning, I wrote the whole experience off as a result of too much fun and went on with my day. We spent the first half fishing at the big pond, and after lunch, we fired off some guns and tested one of the guy's compound bows. After dinner, the beers and smokes came out, and we attempted a poker game, but it was quickly abandoned in favor of another evening of telling lies around the fire. On one of my many trips to relieve myself that night, I was startled by the sound of a stick breaking nearby. I bolted back to the fire, and the look of fear on my face made the others laugh their butts off. I tried to explain that I'd heard someone else out there, but they quickly reminded me that we weren't the only creatures in the woods. Their reasoning seemed sound, so I accepted that it was probably just an animal. Not long after, we were standing around, engaged in some deep discussion. I turned to speak with the man standing to my left, and what I saw made me clench up so tight I could have snapped a steel rod with my sphincter. Standing a few steps behind my friend, completely silent, was a man I did not recognize at all. It was like he had just appeared out of the shadows. Even creepier, he was staring at the back of my friend's head, as if trying to bore through it with his eyes. The longer I looked at him, the more I realized this must be the same figure I'd seen lingering outside the fire's light the night before. He was of average height with a long, unkempt beard. My friend kept rambling, completely unaware of the person standing right behind him. After several long moments, the stranger turned to me with a blank expression and silently walked away. That was when my friend finally noticed my horrified look. He asked what was wrong, breaking the thrall of fear I was under. I began pointing and rambling about what I had just seen. He and my other friend laughed at me. There was no way I was just seeing things this time. I actually described the man in detail. One of them jokingly suggested I must have seen Bigfoot. Despite my protests, no one believed me. Eventually, I gave up, but their mockery only made me more determined to prove this stranger's existence. The next 2 days were completely quiet, no signs of the mysterious man at all. Still, I kept my eyes peeled for anything unusual. By the 5th morning, I was beginning to question my sanity. Had I really seen this person stalking us twice? If so, where had he disappeared to? Maybe my friends were right. I decided to put my concerns aside, at least until I had new evidence. At this point, my friend's dad mentioned that one of the neighboring property owners had spotted a small group of wild hogs running rampant. We grabbed our rifles and set off in search of them. About a mile down one of the property's roads, we came across some hog wallows, confirming we were on the right track. We continued on foot, tracking them for another mile. That's when we stumbled upon 3 wild hogs rooting around in the dirt. We prepared to make ourselves some bacon. 2 of us chambered around as quietly as possible and took aim. I was less than a second from saying 3 and pulling the trigger when the loud crack of a rifle echoed through the air. A burst of wood and bark exploded just above my friend's head. It took a moment to register, but someone was shooting at us. A few seconds later, another shot rang out, this time even closer. We weren't about to stick around for a third. The friend who appeared to be the target led us down a side trail that led back to the cabin. No more shots followed as we fled. But the moment we reached the safety of the cabin, the shots started again. Seeing no other option, we jumped into my truck and hauled it out of there. This was just before the era of common cell phone use, so we had to drive 20 miles to town to get help. After explaining the situation, we returned to the property with some deputies in tow. We approached cautiously, waiting to see if any more shots would be fired. Nothing. A cursory look around revealed bullet holes in the cabin, 3, to be exact, and another 2 in my buddy's windshield. Perhaps worst of all, our camping supplies, sleeping bags, and other gear were strewn across the ground and destroyed. Nothing was stolen, except for a box of .30-30 ammo, and, strangely, my sleeping bag. The deputies theorized that we had stumbled upon a squatter or a poacher camping out on the property. Once my friend's dad, who owned the land, heard about this, he put real pressure on them to investigate further. That was when I once again reiterated my story about seeing someone lurking around the cabin. No one was laughing now. For the first time, my story was being taken seriously. A search was conducted throughout the property and lasted an entire week, but nothing was found aside from a few old campsites. The assumption was that whoever had been out there knew the heat would be on him after the shooting and had moved on. During the investigation, various avenues were explored: escaped convicts, missing persons, but no one was ever identified. To this day, the stranger remains a mystery. Because of the risk of another attack, we never returned to that property. The next year, we tried camping somewhere else, but it just wasn't the same. Our nature getaways soon faded into memory. Every now and then, I think back on our incredible trips, and that one odd and terrifying week that ended them for good. I still talk to my old college friends once or twice a year, and as far as they know, the mysterious stranger was never caught. We sometimes theorize about his origins, where he might have ended up. But when I'm alone, my thoughts go much further. Why had this stranger seemed so focused on my friend? Perhaps more unsettling, if he's still out there, is he waiting for his chance to finish what he started? This is a short story that happened to me several years ago when I was a junior in high school. All my friends got to travel to Myrtle Beach with the baseball team for spring break, but since I didn't play baseball, I was stuck at home. My one friend, Dave, was home too. Since we were the skaters of the friend group, we spent most nights of the break hanging out together, not really doing much, except for one night. We stayed at Dave's house. He literally lived out in the middle of the woods. The closest neighborhood wasn't too far away, but because of where his house was situated, it truly felt like the middle of nowhere. Toward the end of the break, we snuck out of the house to see a girl who lived nearby. Since she and a few other girls from school were still in town, we figured we'd hang out with them for a bit. It wasn't a long walk, but it was unnerving. There were almost no lights at all, and most of the way was surrounded by trees and rocks. Despite that, we had an awesome time. I really liked one of the girls in the group, so it was great spending time with her. On our way back that night, we noticed some random guy following us. I didn't think much of it, but my friend was extremely freaked out. I told him to relax. The guy was following us, sure, but not close enough to be a real threat. When we made it back to his house, I watched as the man kept walking up the street. He never looked back or even glanced at the house. I just shook my head at Dave. He was panicking for nothing. The next night, we hung out again. His parents were going out of town for the weekend, so he had the house to himself. He was a little embarrassed about his house, so he didn't want to have anyone over. Trust me, I pushed hard for the girls to come stay the night, but I lost that argument. Instead, Dave and I walked back to the girls' house again. This time, we stayed much longer, not starting our walk home until after 3 in the morning. On the way back, Dave was relieved that no one was following us this time. When we got back, I helped him lock up the house before we got comfortable in the living room and passed out on the couches. I was feeling amazing, one of the best nights of my life. I had actually kissed the girl I liked, and in that moment, I felt invincible. Not long after we fell asleep, we were woken by a knock at the door. We both froze. "Who the heck could that be?" Dave whispered. The knocking came again, low, rhythmic. Each bang on the wood made my hair stand on end. I slowly got up and moved toward the door. "Who is it?" I called out. There was no response right away. Then, after a moment, a young female voice spoke from the other side. "Hey, so, I was wondering if I could please hide inside?" I didn't say anything at first. The absurdity of the request, combined with the eerily calm tone of her voice, left me flabbergasted. Before I could respond, she spoke again. "It's gonna be too late if you don't let me in. Can I please hide inside your house?" I was speechless. A million thoughts raced through my head. My first instinct was that it had to be one of the girls playing a joke, but I didn't recognize the voice at all. Neither Dave nor I responded. We just sat there in silence. Then, after a while, the doorknob started jiggling. At first, it was slow, then it got more aggressive. The calm voice outside suddenly changed. It became lower, more sinister. "Open this damn door right now." I finally found my voice and shouted, telling her to go away and that I was calling the police. Silence. Then, she started speaking again. At first, her tone was soft and scared, but midway through the sentence, her voice twisted back into that menacing tone. "Honey, if you don't open the door right now, I'm going to lose my mind." Dave suddenly jumped up from the couch and yelled for her to go away. Then, we heard it, another voice, deeper, male. "Good call, buddies. Very good call." Right after he said that, we heard footsteps walking away. I ran to the window and peered outside. Two people were walking down the street. One of them looked suspiciously like the man who had followed us the night before, same stature, same movement. Needless to say, we were terrified. We stayed awake the rest of the night. Since Dave's parents weren't home, we didn't call the police, even though we knew we should have. Dave was afraid his parents would get mad if the cops showed up while they were gone. On Sunday morning, when his parents came home, he finally told them what had happened. They instantly called the police, and called us stupid for not doing it sooner. Better late than never, I guess. Since hours had passed, the police admitted they'd probably never catch the two people. But they said they'd keep an eye out for similar incidents. To this day, I have no idea who they were or what they wanted. I just know that ever since that night, I don't like being outside after dark. That night messed me up for a long time. About 12 years ago, I went on a 10-day hunting trip in northern Michigan with my buddy Dave. We were deep in a place called Dead Stream Swamp. Back then, we used to tent camp, no cabins, no fancy setups. Just us, our gear, and the wilderness. It was the third week of November, so it was cold. There were about 6 to 10 inches of snow on the ground. That night, after a long day, we got into our sleeping bags on our cots, listening to a small battery-operated radio as we drifted off. The Michigan backwoods can get dark, pitch black, eerie, and completely silent. I passed out fast. Sometime later, I was woken up by Dave saying my name over and over. At first, I thought it was the radio playing, half asleep and groggy. But then I realized Dave's voice wasn't coming from the radio. It was right next to me. And he sounded terrified. "What? What's wrong, dude?" I muttered, still disoriented. "Dude, get your gun. Get your gun. Right. Now." That snapped me awake. "What? What are you talking about?" "There's someone out there," Dave whispered. "Now, let me explain something." We were deep in the woods, not in a state park or a campground. We had set up camp at the end of a long dead-end two-track. We had been there for 5 or 6 days and hadn't seen a single soul. Not one person. No signs of anyone else even having been out there. So, of course, in my half-asleep state, I didn't believe him. "What do you mean someone's here? What, did you order a pizza?" I mumbled. Dave ignored me. "Just listen." Then, I noticed it. The radio was off. But I could hear AC/DC blaring through the trees. And beneath the music, the faint rumble of an old pickup truck coming down the 2-track toward our camp. My blood ran cold. Our tent was big, with a heavy rubber tarp draped over it, making it hard to spot unless you already knew it was there. And yet, somehow, this truck was heading straight for us. Headlights swept across the tent as the truck made its way down the winding trail. It was about 100 yards away when I finally caught the sound of yelling over the music. A voice, drunken, screechy, furious. "You neighbors better get your asses out of here." Then, the truck came to a stop, just a foot from our tent. The engine roared as the driver revved it, the whole tent vibrating from the sound. I was frozen for a second, completely stunned. How the hell had this guy even found us? But this wasn't the time for questions. I reached for my gun. The truck inched closer, headlights blinding through the thin walls of the tent. I racked a shell into my Winchester and screamed, "You better get out of here right now. I'm not playing around." The engine roared louder. The truck crept even closer. I braced myself, certain this lunatic was about to ram straight into us. "Mother I'm not playing." I shouted again. "I'm gonna start shooting right now." Then, finally, he got the message. The truck backed up. But slowly. Creeping away, inch by inch, like he was daring us to do something. Eventually, the taillights faded into the darkness, and the sound of the engine disappeared down the trail. We sat in complete silence, our hearts pounding. The rest of the trip had a weird, unsettling feeling to it. We never figured out who that man was or where he had come from. But way out by the dirt road we had turned off to get back there were 2 or 3 old mobile homes. The kind that looked straight out of the hills have eyes, filthy, covered in junk, with things hanging off the porches. I'm assuming the man lived in one of them. But we never went to find out. To this day, just thinking about it sends a chill down my spine. I really thought I was going to have to shoot him. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure if that would have stopped him. My friends and I had a hangout spot in the middle of nowhere where we'd go to drink, smoke weed, and do other things. We called it the tunnel. It wasn't an actual tunnel, just a long dirt road surrounded by towering, dense trees. The way they arched over the path made it feel like you were driving through a tunnel of branches and shadows. The guys in our group always told scary stories about strange things that had happened to them out there. I never believed them. Every time I had been there before, nothing creepy had ever happened. Until that night. We had snuck out, and it was late, probably around 1 or 2 in the morning. We were sitting in the car, drinking and talking, when my friend in the driver's seat suddenly whispered, "Hey, what's that in the middle of the road up there?" I looked, but I didn't see anything. "There's nothing there. Your eyes are playing tricks on you," he insisted. "No, I swear, there's something in the road." The passenger leaned forward and peered out. "Dude, yeah. I see it too." I rolled my eyes. "Come on, you guys are just trying to scare us." The driver put the car in drive and slowly rolled forward. Then, something stepped out of the darkness. A man. He stood right in the middle of the road, staring at us as we approached. He was barefoot, shirtless, and wearing only a pair of shorts. It was a cold fall night. There was no reason for anyone to be dressed like that, especially out here, in the middle of nowhere. But that wasn't the worst part. His eyes. They glowed yellow in the headlights. Like an animal's. We screamed. "Should I stop?" the driver yelled. "No. Drive. Now." the man didn't move. He just watched us as we got closer. Then, just as we were about 10 feet away, he vanished. Not ran. Not stepped away. Just disappeared into the darkness. On either side of the road were tall fences, covered in even taller willow branches, at least 14 feet high. There was no way a normal person could have scaled them that fast. And I had never seen a human's eyes glow in headlights like that before. To this day, I can't think of a logical explanation for what we saw. But I know what I saw. And I don't think it was human. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.